Hi, this is my comic analysis reading of Tank Girl, the Odyssey. The creative team consists of Annie Parkhouse, the letterer, Brian Bolin, the cover, Jamie Hewlett, the inker and penciler, which fun little side note is that he eventually started to draw and illustrate for the Gorillaz, the musical band. Peter Milligan is the writer. Art Young, the editor. Frank Wynn is another editor. Nathan Iring is the colorist. So, Tank Girl is published by DC and Vertigo Comics. Vertigo is a part of DC, so at least at this point. The graphic novel, the compilation graphic novel itself is a total of 104 pages set through a series of 4 comics, each 26 pages long. And when it gets to the act structure with having a series like that with 4 comics, I got kind of lucky because it's pretty definite and clear that the end of the first comic signifies the end of the first act, and then comic 2 and 3 will eventually end the second act, and then the 4th comic will consist entirely of the 3rd act and the resolution. So I got pretty easy, I let off easy at that point, but even if they didn't say so, which they do because this comic breaks the 4th wall a lot and talks about the writers involved. Tank Girl herself will, in multiple instances, speak of the writers and the illustrators as though they are characters in the story. So it's pretty interesting. But she is sure to let the reader know that it's the end of each act. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Sequentially, the end of the first act is, if the series of 4 is a total of 104 pages, then the first act ends at page 26, the second at 88, and the third at obviously 104. So when it comes to the story itself, it's interesting to say the least. Excuse my note-taking here. It's about a very rough and tumbled woman named Tank Girl, who is partners with a male kangaroo, like an anthropomorphic kangaroo man named Booga. And they, Booga, I should preface it with the fact that this is the series that takes place after the original Tank Girl. So it's a little bit of a continuation. So the characters have already been determined and talked about in the first series. But Booga is, as I said, Tank Girl's partner. Excuse me. And he, after Tank Girl's disappearance, then he begins to sign a contract with a local thug named Tony Blazer. And Tony Blazer is pretty much pressuring Booga into signing. And then Booga and Tank Girl's created son named Telly, who is pretty much half man, half machine. He's got the body of a man, the head of a television. And so he uses his ability to talk through wavelengths, like television wavelengths, and contacts Tank Girl, who at this point has been recovering and relaxing from the first series of comics. So it leaves her obese and just out of shape for this next series. So seeing her try and get back into play is really fun beginning to it. and she in any case she ends up getting back with, well, after, to make a long story short, she gathers her posse, I guess, if you could say that. And by the way, once again, I have to mention this. This story is called the Odyssey, and it really does follow the original, Greek mythology Odyssey pretty much to a T. But it turns each character into an idea of the entertainment industry, and tends to poke fun satirically at each aspect of probably what the creative team had to go through in order to get Tank Girl noticed. They even at one point mentioned Tank Girl the movie, which as everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people tend to not enjoy. They even make fun of that in the comic itself. So it's very a very self-involved satirical commentary about the entertainment industry. But I'm sorry, once again I got off subject. So Booga and Tony Blazer are about to sign a contract. Telly contacts Tank Girl. She gets her crew together, and they go on a mission to get back to Booga and back to her house, which she has been away from for a while. So her lovable cast of characters, as the story goes, after they meet the Sirens, which have been turned into a goth band, and they meet pretty much Circe and pretty much every trial and labor of the Odyssey itself. She ends up finally getting back to Booga, and it pretty much returns the status quo. Excuse me. Tony Blazer is defeated, and so on and so forth. But for me, it wasn't so much about the story as it was the intermittent writing and the art style. As I mentioned earlier, the art style itself is the artist Peter Hewlett had. Jamie Hewlett. The writer is Peter Milligan. The artist, Jamie Hewlett, went on to design the characters for the Gorillaz, which, if anyone knows that group, then they know that the band members are represented in animated characters instead of having actual physical views of them. So his art style has, the way he draws has been welcomed by a multitude of other industries, and starting with just the music industry, which I thought was really cool, that you can go from comics to music that smoothly. I'm sure he didn't have a smooth process, but it's good to know that you can choose one thing and go to another. In any case, once again, a tangent. But the writing with Peter Milligan, it's a very, very sparse and chaotic writing style. He tends to break the fourth wall a lot, multiple times, and just pokes fun at his own industry, which I thought was really interesting. Because as anyone listening to this right now will know, we've been trying to get into the industry itself, and so seeing someone who is probably at the amateur rank at this point in time that Tank Girl has been written, getting into the industry, seeing their thoughts about it, kind of it's a fun idea, especially with the comic style and the way that they illustrate it. So once again, that was one of the major things for me. It was just the chaotic art style mixed with the very poignant and precise satire of the industry itself. So that was one of my favorite parts. And when it comes to the actual art style, since I'm somewhat talking about it, I did take notice of the flows of how a lot of times the characters or something in the art of each panel would point to the Z direction that we have been taught. And but I did notice also that a lot of times, considering it is such a chaotic story and even the premise itself, but it's interesting because a lot of times there won't be a direct flow of intention from the artist, and so I feel that it just kind of helps provide a clustered look, I guess. Just once again, I don't know, it's the only word that comes to mind, but a very chaotic feel to the story. I'm sorry, now I'm just going off the list. There are there's a lot of different characters, but a lot of them tend to perish throughout the story. Kind of, wants to go back to the Odyssey, just like the Odyssey. A lot of people, they take their shot and die in order to allow the rest of the team to continue forward. So they don't really have story arcs, I guess, unless it's very, very short, depending on which one has died in what sequential order. But it does very much fit the model about the. I'm sorry, I mixed up questions there. Well, it also fits the what we should do. Obviously, I mean, he's a very skilled. Both of them are very skilled. I speak just about Jamie Hewlett and Peter Milligan, even though there is a whole other group of people who have editors and letters and all other people who have done their job, done their part in order to bring this to life. But there are a lot of page turners, and they use the writing, like not only the art style, but the writing has a lot to do with the page turning, because at one point in time you'll be talking about something kind of important about say bringing Tinkerbell's mother back to life, and then all of a sudden at the end of the sixth panel, then they'll leave you with, well, the only way to do it is to have a bag of farts. So I mean, like for example, that's just one thing. It's a running joke in the entire series here, but it's just one thing that makes you wonder, like, okay, well, how are they gonna use farts now at this point in time? So it does keeps you going. Excuse me again. The writer and the artists are just absolutely amazing in this series. I fully recommend that anyone interested in kind of I almost just want to call it nonsensical, but making sense at the same time. It doesn't really make sense. I didn't mean that one. That was an unintended pun. But no, it's a very, I was going to say chaotic again. It's a very out there concept, and it really makes you wonder why not. Why can't we have just a story about a kangaroo man with a shaved head woman who smokes too much, and their entire goal is to find beer, get drunk, and hang out with their friends, but then something gets in the way. So it's just a very straightforward idea and turns pretty nonsensical at times. Well, I consider, and to keep going down the list, it says, do I recommend this to my classmates? But then the next question is, would I recommend it to my friends? Well, I consider my friends my classmates. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But no, honestly, I've seen, I've been in class with you guys just for 1 month, so I'm going to speak to you directly at this point. And you obviously know what you're talking about when it comes to story and the enjoyment of reading and visual imagery. So I fully do recommend that you at least just give Tank Girl a quick shot. It's I actually found it free online, And since I'm not a technological genius, which I'm sure you don't have to be, but I'm semi bonked in the head. Just as long as you just go to Google and you type in free Tank Girl comic Odyssey, then you'll have all 4 issues free to read at your heart's content. So, well, I hope that you loved my rambling as much as I loved doing it. So, I wish you guys all the best of luck over spring break and obviously over the next month's class. So, thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful night.